Look at the earliest scientific depictions of the whale, and you will find monsters resembling rafts of logs or scaly dragons. Observers rarely saw the living creature navigating unfathomable waters. They only saw the dead matter that washed ashore. Drawing a leviathan from a stranded corpse is like sketching a wrecked, broken-backed ship and claiming it represents a fully rigged vessel under sail. The creature's true architectural majesty is completely lost when dragged out of its buoyant, aquatic element and crushed under its own immense gravity. To make sense of this biological chaos, 19th-century whalemen established a rigid taxonomic baseline. Waving aside academic debates, they planted their flag on a purely practical definition. The whale is a fish. In 1776, Carl Linnaeus attempted to banish whales from the fish category entirely. He argued that their warm, bilocular hearts and their lungs made them mammals. But to the men who actually hunted them, sharing the ocean with sharks and herring meant they belonged to the sea's dominion, regardless of their internal plumbing. The defining external markers were stripped down to two unarguable traits. A whale is a spouting fish with a horizontal tail. A walrus spouts, but it is amphibious. Most fish have vertical tails, but the leviathan's is uniquely flat, allowing it to propel massive bulk upward from the deep. Sorting this family tree using only external features, like dorsal fins or teeth, proved impossible. These traits are scattered randomly across different species. The only reliable metric left to observers was sheer bodily magnitude. By locking down this strict magnitude-based definition, we have a functional lens to examine the creature. It provides the framework required to dissect how the whale actually operates within the dark, high-pressure environment of the open ocean. The vast catalog of whales can be sorted like a library, divided into three primary books based strictly on their size: the folio, the octavo, and the duodecimo. Book 1 contains the folio whales. These are the titans, the largest inhabitants of the globe, and the primary targets of the global whaling industry due to their massive oil yields. The supreme monarch of this volume is the sperm whale, or macrocephalus. It is flanked by the venerable right whale, hunted for its flexible bone, and the elusive, incredibly fast finback. Rounding out the folios are the highly active humpback, the sharp-ridged razorback, and the deeply diving sulfur bottom. Book 2 steps down to the octavo whales. These species possess all the grand distinctive features of the leviathan, but range only from 15 to 25 feet in length. Here we find the grampus, the blackfish, and the narwhal. The narwhal is easily identified by its left-sided ivory tusk, a spiraled lance. The octavo index is completed by two outlaws of the sea, the savage killer whale and the thrasher, known for using its tail as a whip against larger prey. And finally, Book 3 contains the duodecimos. These are the smallest creatures that still meet the definition of a spouting fish with a horizontal tail. This volume covers the Huza porpoise, the Algerine porpoise, and the distinctly patterned mealy-mouthed porpoise. This bibliographic taxonomy takes a chaotic, overlapping biological system and forces it into an ordered, utilitarian index. It allows a navigator to quickly assess the economic value and physical threat of any target on the horizon. The physical extremes of the folio class are seen by comparing the heads of the sperm and right whales. The sperm whale presents a blunt, heavily rounded front, much like a Roman war chariot. The right whale's head is highly irregular, shaped almost like a gigantic curved shoe. On both creatures, the eyes are pushed incredibly far back and low down on the skull, completely out of proportion to the mass of the head. Because cubic feet of solid bone separate these eyes, the whale receives two completely distinct visual pictures. It sees one view to the left, another to the right, and experiences profound, helpless darkness directly ahead and directly astern. Their sense of hearing is similarly restricted. The whale lacks any external ear leaf, and the auditory hole itself is so minute you could scarcely insert a quill into it. To compensate for these blind spots, the front of the sperm whale's head functions as a blind, dead wall. It is a boneless mass wrapped in an incredibly tough integument that repels the sharpest steel harpoons, acting as a living battering ram. Behind this impenetrable wall lies a vast cavity known as the case. It holds up to 500 gallons of completely liquid spermaceti oil. At the very top sits the whale's spiracle, expelling a thick bush of mist at a forward slanting angle. The right whale lacks this oil reservoir entirely. It also has a completely different jaw structure, completely devoid of the sperm whale's heavy ivory teeth. Instead, the right whale's upper jaw is lined with 250 plates of baleen. As it sluggishly swims, it uses this massive biological Venetian blind to filter microscopic organisms known as brit from the seawater. And unlike the sperm whale, the right whale breathes through two external spout holes, producing a highly recognizable bifurcated vertical spray. These cranial architectures dictate entirely different methods of survival. One filters surface waters for tiny organisms, while the other aggressively hunts with ivory teeth. And each requires a highly specialized, dangerous approach from the men attempting to harvest them. Below the surface, the Leviathan relies on extreme internal anomalies to survive. It is a warm-blooded, lung-breathing creature that spends its life immersed in near-freezing polar waters. It maintains its core temperature through a thick layer of blubber. This dense, fatty tissue wraps the entire body like a waterproof poncho, insulating the internal organs from the surrounding ocean. This insulation is so effective that the blood of a polar whale swimming through pack ice remains physically warmer than the blood of a human standing at the equator in summer. Its respiratory system is equally specialized. The whale cannot breathe through its mouth at all. The windpipe is entirely disconnected from the jaw, routing directly and exclusively to the spiracle on top of the head. Deep inside, resting along the spine, the whale possesses a highly complex network of vermicelli-like blood vessels arranged in a dense Cretan labyrinth. When the whale surfaces and breathes, this labyrinth fully distends, acting as a massive biological reservoir to store a surplus of highly oxygenated blood. Because of this stored vitality, the Leviathan can dive 1,000 fathoms down and actively hunt for over an hour without needing to draw a single breath. But this system runs on strict mathematical necessity. To fully replenish that reservoir, a whale must surface and execute an exact, unvarying number of spouts. If it is interrupted, it will continuously try to surface until its specific numerical quota is met. This immense vascular power comes with a critical vulnerability. The whale's arterial system lacks the valves that allow land animals to cut off blood flow to a wound. A harpoon puncture opens a localized drain on this high-pressure system. A small iron point causes a continuous, deadly flow, exhausting the creature's fluid reserves. The Leviathan's biology is in extreme equilibrium. The exact mechanisms that allow it to dominate the freezing, lightless depths are the exact vulnerabilities that human hunters track and systematically exploit. Beyond their individual anatomy, whales operate within rigid geographical and social frameworks. They do not wander the oceans randomly. Sperm whales migrate between feeding grounds in highly predictable, straight paths known as mains. They swim along these ocean lines with such undeviating exactitude that whalers can calculate their future positions across hundreds of miles of open water. Within these veins, they breed at all seasons. After a 9-month gestation, the female gives birth to a single calf, suckling it on the surface via 2 teats located near the tail. The females and calves travel together in protective harem schools. These tight-knit pods are strictly guarded by a single, massive adult male bashaw, who aggressively repels any outside intruders. Conversely, young males group together in highly pugnacious, aggressive schools until they mature. As they reach extreme old age, these males abandon society entirely, living out their final decades as completely solitary leviathans. Every aspect of leviathan society is structured. Their migration routes, their age brackets, and their sex dictate exactly where they swim and how they defend themselves. With thousands of whales harvested annually, 19th century naturalists began to question whether the species was physically degenerating, shrinking in size compared to its ancient ancestors. The fossil record proved the opposite. The skeletons of pre-Adamite whales excavated from tertiary geological layers measure less than 70 feet, while modern specimens regularly exceed those dimensions. The species is actually growing, and against the relentless pressure of human fleets, the whalebone whales have initiated a strategic retreat, abandoning the savannas and glades of the Middle Seas. They dive under the glassy barriers of the Arctic and Antarctic ice shelves, securing refuge within impenetrable polar citadels where no wooden ship can follow. Locked in this circle of everlasting December, these creatures live for over a century. Multiple adult generations swim concurrently, effectively outlasting the very human populations that hunt them. Man has mapped their anatomy and tracked their oceanic veins, but between their expanding physical magnitude and their retreat into the ice, the leviathans maintain a secure, enduring immortality beneath the unfathomable waters.